Good morning. Today is Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. The idea of a Yartzeit, which marks the anniversary of death of a loved one, is very powerful in Jewish life, in every community. Jews who may not observe any other aspects of Judaism are careful to mark a Yartzeit. The word Yartzeit is German. It means a year time. And the idea of marking a Yartzeit in a specific manner goes back at least to the time of the Talmud. However, some specific aspects of observance that we recognize today are more recent. So, for example, for a mourner to say Kaddish on the Yartzeit, lighting a candle, those practices really come from the late 1600s, relatively recently. And there are two trends of how to mark a Yartzeit. There is the trend within the Ashkenazic world, which is codified in Shulchan Aruch, and that is that it is a day of mini mourning, of Avelus. A person would fast on that day, give tzedakah, not shave or get a haircut, not go to entertainment type events on that day. And there is another approach that is commonly followed by many Sephardim and Hasidim, that the day of a Yartzeit becomes a hilula, a celebration, because it's a day in which there is an elevation to the neshama, to the soul of the person that passed away. And so therefore, the way to mark a Yartzeit is to say l'chaim and to have a schnapps to drink. It's no contest. So you see many more people observing Yartzeit by sponsoring a kiddush and having a l'chaim than by fasting and the other practices. It's kind of winning out in terms of popularity, but in terms of the halacha, those are two different approaches of the Ashkenazic and Sephardic and Chazak worlds. But however you do it, it is a day to connect to the person that passed away, to their neshama, to connect to what they stand for, what they teach us, and whatever way we commemorate by giving tzedakah, doing other mitzvos, but somehow connecting to that person is very important. In the entire Torah, there is only one Yartzeit that is explicitly mentioned, and that is in last week's Torah portion, the Parsha of Matos Masai, and that Yartzeit falls today. Today is Rosh Chodesh Av, the first day of the Jewish month of Av. And the Torah said in the Parsha of Masai, near the end of the book of Bamidbar that we read this past Shabbos, Vaya'al Aharon HaKohen El Hor HaHor Al Pi Hashem. Aharon ascended to the top of this mountain called Har HaHor, according to the instruction of God. Vayamasham, and Aharon died there. Bishnas ha'arbayim l'tzeis b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim, in the 40th year after the Jewish people left Egypt, b'chodesh ha'chamishi, in the 5th month, be'echad la'chodesh, the first day of the month, the 5th month, counting from Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, the first day of the month of Av is Rosh Chodesh Av, that is today. In parentheses, in the Torah, we do not find any names for the Hebrew months. We only find that later. We find some of them in the book of McGill Esther, the names of months that we're familiar with, Adar, Nisan, etc. But in the Torah itself, months are referred to by number, starting from Nisan, the first month of the year, the second month of the year, the 10th month of the year, etc. So today is the Yartzeit. Today is the Yartzeit of Aharon HaKohen, the first Kohen Gadol. And we read this passage from last Shabbos always within a few days of Rosh Chodesh Av. We read it on Shabbos. Today's Wednesday. Now, the truth is, already at the time of Aharon, the month of Av was a sad period because it was on the 9th of Av, earlier, about 38 years earlier approximately, when the terrible debacle with the Meraglim, the spies, happened, and God decreed that instead of going directly into Israel, the Jewish people would wander in the desert for a total of 40 years. That decree was on the 9th of Av. And God had also decreed as part of that every single person who left Egypt would die in the desert, and only the next generation would go into Israel, except for Yehoshua and Kalev. So every year, on the 9th of Av, many people passed away. There's an eerie medrash that says that every year during the years in the desert, on the 9th of Av, the nighttime, every single person would dig a grave and lie down at night in the grave. And the next morning, whoever got up for another year, and whoever did not had passed away. So this day, this month, was already earmarked, characterized as a month of very sad things happening. And this gives rise to the comment of our sages in the Mishnah, Mishenichnas Av Mematim B'Simcha. When the month of Av enters, our joy decreases. Our joy is diminished. We have practices of mourning. We don't have weddings. We don't attend happy events. And that starts not from Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, which is the actual day to commemorate the destruction of the first temple and the second temple, etc. It's Mishenichnas Av, from the beginning of the month of Av, when it comes in, which means today. Today starts that period, because you'll notice that it's an entire month of sad, catastrophic occasions. And the beginning of it corresponds with the death of Aharon. Concerning Aharon's death, the Torah says, Vayivku es Aharon shloshim yom kol beis Yisrael. And they cried, the Jewish people cried, mourned for Aharon for 30 days. Kol beis Yisrael, the entire house of Israel. Every single man, woman, and child mourned for Aharon for 30 days. Our sages point out 6 months later, Moshe died. Moshe died, according to tradition, on the 7th of Adar, but it's not explicitly mentioned in the Torah. Concerning Moshe's death, the Torah says, Vayivku b'nei Yisrael es Moshe ba'arvos Moav shloshim yom. They mourned for Moshe 30 days. So it's the same 30-day mourning period, but Rashi points out the difference in the wording. When Aharon died, it was kol beis Yisrael, every single individual. When Moshe died, it was B'nai Yisrael, the Jewish people, meaning not necessarily every single one of them. And Rashi explains the difference between the two. When Aharon died, ha'anoshim v'hanoshim, every man and woman mourned Aharon's death. Levishaya Aaron rodei shalom, because Aaron was one who pursued peace. I want to take a moment, because this word rodef, I've shared with you before, is a very aggressive word. It's a word with great action. The word rodef, in a different context, means one person who is running after another person, God forbid, to kill them. It doesn't just mean a person who likes peace, who agrees to peace. It means a person who is actively and aggressively pursuing peace, looking for ways to make peace. Umatil ava ben bale meriva, And Aharon was active in creating harmony between people who are arguing, which includes, of course, ubein ish liishto, between husbands and wives who are having marriage problems. And that's why the Torah says, Vayivku kol beis Yisrael. Every single Jewish person, men and women, mourned his death. Moshe may have been greater than Aharon, but Aharon was more beloved. He devoted his life to making peace, to pursuing peace. And when that stopped on the first day of Av in the 40th year, this day, when he died, that date, the first day of Av, this date, ushers in a period of a lack of peace, a lack of love, and therefore a period of sadness and mourning. I have mentioned repeatedly, our sages identify the characteristic of the Jewish people that led to the destruction of the Second Temple, sinaskinam, needless hatred, to which Rabbi Kook famously taught we need to combat that darkness with the spirit of Aharon, who's passing ushers in this period of darkness with ahavas chinam, to love more than is even required, because that is what Aharon stood for, and that is what he taught. Let me share with you an amazing story I heard from Rabbi Pesach Krohn. There was a man in New York, religious man, and his brother was about to travel to Israel. So the man said to his brother, I have an envelope with some money, and it's destined for a needy individual in Israel. Would you please take the envelope and deliver it to this person in Israel? They really need this money. It was a significant amount of money. It was $1,700. It was a lot of money. Okay, the brother leaves, and the man in New York is waiting to hear from the recipient that he got it. His brother had already arrived, waited a few days, but he doesn't hear anything. So finally he calls the person and says, did you get the envelope that I sent with my brother? And the man says, no, I didn't see your brother. I didn't get anything. I didn't receive anything. I didn't even see your brother. I didn't even know he was here. So the man calls his brother in Israel. And his brother says to him, I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what happened. I'm so embarrassed. I couldn't even call you to tell you. I'm so embarrassed. Somehow I lost it. I don't even know how. I was careful with it. I put it in the suitcase. I know it was there. I don't even know how it could have happened, but I was so embarrassed and ashamed. I couldn't even bring myself to call you to tell me. So his brother said to him, don't worry about it. It's min hashamayim. You were not negligent. It's from heaven. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's okay. But when the brother came back from his trip from Israel, he did worry about it. And he was so embarrassed, and he was so humiliated, and he was afraid that his brother would be waiting for him at the airport to yell at him. How could you lose $1,700? And it wasn't just for a luxury, it was for tzedakah. Somebody was depending on it. How could you lose it? That's what the brother was afraid was going to happen to him when he gets to the airport. So the plane arrives, he gets off the plane, and his brother is waiting for him. And his brother walks towards him with a cake. And the cake has an inscription. Now, the inscription is written in icing, like a birthday cake, but it's not a birthday. I would imagine that the bakery has never written this inscription before. It is from a quote from last week's Torah portion, the Parsha Pinchas. I would imagine that there is no quote that has ever been used from the Parsha Pinchas on a birthday cake. And inscribed on the top of the cake in icing is, Hineni nosein lo es brisi shalom. Behold, I give to you my covenant of peace. Something goes wrong. Person makes a mistake. There is a potential for recrimination, for upset, for anger. Maybe there is a basis for it. Sometimes the best thing to do when you are upset with someone is to confront the other person and come with a cake. Hirani nosein lo es brisi shalom. That is ahavas chinam. That is showing more love than is called for. Notice, please, when Aharon died, like Moshe, everyone mourned for 30 days. Remember, we discussed this before. 30 days is the full mourning period for any member of the family, except for a parent, God forbid. Which means we also need to feel that we are part of Aharon's family and we are mourning. And likewise, we should be observing this Yartzeit. Today, we should take the opportunity to in some way observe the Yartzeit of Aaron. And the most important observance of Aharon's Yartzeit is to act like he acted. Ohev Shalom, V'rodev Shalom, to love peace and to pursue peace, to use Rav Kook's words, to engage in ahavas chinam, to use Rabbi Krohn's words, bring somebody a cake. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.